The Untouchables looked like a polished crime classic on screen, but behind the scenes it was chaos, genius, and unexpected brilliance. Fact 1.
I get nowhere unless the team wins.
Robert De Niro took method acting to another level for his role as Al Capone. He insisted on wearing real 1930s-style underwear beneath every costume. Even more extreme, he gained about 30 pounds specifically to fill out Capone's tailored suits. The suits were made by the same Chicago tailor who dressed Capone in real life. De Niro believed his weight would affect how he walked, stood, and breathed. He also shaved his head in a way to mimic Capone's balding pattern. Despite his limited screen time, De Niro immersed himself completely in the role. He reportedly carried a handkerchief exactly like Capone's and practiced specific gestures. During breaks, he would stay in character, even when the cameras weren't rolling. Director Brian De Palma said De Niro had a terrifying presence on set. His portrayal was based on extensive research, including FBI files and biographies. De Niro asked for real cigars, not props, to match Capone's style. He even consulted barbers to perfect Capone's distinctive look. He wasn't just playing a gangster, he wanted to be him. The wardrobe department had to adjust buttons and seams multiple times as his weight fluctuated. He wasn't required to do any of this, but De Niro demanded realism. Some scenes were rewritten just to better match his physicality. Other actors felt his presence changed the tone of every scene he entered. His performance only lasted about 10 minutes of screen time, but it became iconic. Critics praised his subtle yet menacing portrayal. It's one of the shortest Oscar-worthy performances never actually nominated. That's De Niro. Even a few minutes can dominate a film. Fact 2.
What do you want?
I'd like to talk to you.
Sean Connery won an Academy Award for playing Malone.
And the winner is...
Sean Connery in The Untouchables.
But many were baffled by his accent. He played an Irish-American cop with a very obvious Scottish accent. It wasn't just noticeable, it was never explained in the script. When asked about it, Connery simply replied, "That's the way I speak." Director Brian De Palma originally worried it would hurt the film's authenticity, but Connery's performance was so powerful, audiences didn't care. He infused Malone with wisdom, toughness, and heart. Connery also had enormous input on his character's dialogue. The famous line, "They pull a knife, you pull a gun," was rewritten with Connery's input. Screenwriter David Mamet gave Connery freedom to shape certain speeches. Connery also improvised parts of the church bench scene with Kevin Costner. The chemistry between the two actors grew from their off-screen respect. Connery reportedly encouraged Costner throughout filming. He performed all of his own action scenes, including the alley shootout. The death scene in Malone's apartment was rehearsed multiple times for emotional precision. Connery worked closely with the stunt team to keep it realistic. He believed Malone had to die to give Ness a personal reason to break the rules. His Oscar win surprised many critics, but not his co-stars. De Palma later said the accent should have ruined the role, but it didn't. It became part of Malone's charm, worldly, hardened, and unbothered by conventions. Sometimes the wrong accent becomes the right one. And Connery's voice left a lasting mark. Fact 3. The unforgettable train station shootout wasn't in the original script. Director Brian De Palma added it late in production, replacing a planned chase through the Chicago rail yards. He was inspired by Sergei Eisenstein's silent film Battleship Potemkin, specifically the famous Odessa Steps sequence with a baby carriage tumbling downstairs. De Palma reimagined that moment with slow-motion violence and nail-biting suspense. The baby carriage, the falling bodies, and the gunfire were all carefully storyboarded. It took 7 days to film the 2-minute sequence. Every extra was choreographed like a dancer. Each movement had a beat. The scene was shot in Union Station in Chicago, which remained open to the public during filming. Extras were often tourists who agreed to appear on camera. The baby's mother in the scene was a local actor hired last minute. The original ending had no baby, just a shootout. But De Palma insisted that the innocence of the baby raised the tension. Cinematographer Stephen H. Burham said it was the most difficult scene of his career. The staircase had poor lighting and no air conditioning. Cast and crew worked through the night to capture perfect takes. Kevin Costner did most of his own stunts in that scene. The carriage was custom built to roll just right, but still almost crashed several times. The entire sequence was a nod to film history, hidden in an American gangster movie. Critics still analyze it in film schools today. Sometimes the most unforgettable scenes are homages in disguise, and this one turned a historical reference into pure cinematic tension. Fact 4.
All right, now, let's do some good!
Kevin Costner wasn't the first or second choice to play Elliot Ness. At one point, Mel Gibson and Harrison Ford were both approached. Ford passed due to scheduling, and Gibson felt the script was too serious. Costner had just filmed Silverado and was not yet a household name. Director De Palma saw something in Costner's quiet intensity. The studio pushed back, wanting a more bankable star. But producer Art Linson fought hard to cast Costner. He believed audiences would relate to a more grounded, less iconic Ness. Costner read the full script in one sitting and immediately agreed. He trained with real law enforcement officers to prepare. To stay in character, he avoided socializing between takes. Costner said he wanted Ness to feel like a man with rules who learns to break them. During production, he studied tapes of actual prohibition agents. He focused on making Ness appear naive at first and dangerous by the end. He spent time with Sean Connery off camera to build their dynamic. Their bond translated into real chemistry on screen. Critics praised Costner for his restraint in a flashy film. The role launched his career into the mainstream. It led directly to him being cast in Field of Dreams and Dances with Wolves. All because he stepped into a role no one else wanted. Sometimes the best heroes start with a quiet yes, and that's how Costner became Ness. Fact 5.
What do you say? What do you say?
I said never stop fighting till the fight is done.
What?
One of the most powerful moments in The Untouchables comes from the courtroom. After Capone's sentence, Elliot Ness turns and says, "Never stop fighting till the fight is done." It feels like screenwriting magic, but it's actually based on a real quote. The phrase was inspired by real federal agents and prosecutors from the Capone era. Some use similar language in memoirs and trial transcripts. Screenwriter David Mamet read dozens of historical documents for inspiration. He found that many agents ended public statements with lines like that. It became a motto for prohibition agents under extreme pressure. Mamet rephrased it slightly to fit Ness's character arc. The moment gave Ness a moral backbone in a murky world. Kevin Costner said it was his favorite line in the film. The quote also became a favorite among police and law students. It has been cited in speeches by real-life law enforcement. The courtroom where the scene was filmed is an actual historic courthouse in Chicago. Extras included real attorneys and courthouse staff in period costumes. De Palma wanted the legal scenes to feel as intense as the shootouts. He used low angles and wide lenses to emphasize moral weight. The entire sequence was shot over 3 days under tight security. Connery's absence in that final scene gave it emotional gravity. Ness's final words weren't just cinematic, they were deeply rooted in real American justice. A line born from real resolve, captured forever on screen. Fact 6. The lavish apartment where De Niro's Capone lives wasn't just a set. It was filmed inside a real historic hotel in Chicago, known for housing gangsters during the 1920s. The hotel's interior was preserved with original Art Deco features and period furniture. Production designer Patricia von Brandenstein chose it for authenticity. She researched actual photographs of Capone's living quarters. The massive dining room table was built to match Capone's real one. De Niro's suits were tailored to match surviving photos from Capone's archives. They even reproduced his diamond pinky ring and pocket watch. Every lamp, mirror, and drapery was era accurate. Crew members said stepping onto the set felt like stepping back in time. De Palma insisted on shooting with practical lighting for realism. The ballroom where Capone gives speeches was the hotel's real banquet hall. No CGI or fake walls were used, only restoration and enhancement. The crew cleaned the location for a week before filming. It was one of the most expensive sets of the entire movie. Even extras had to wear authentic period-correct undergarments. The attention to detail extended to food on the table. real dishes made from 1930s recipes. De Niro had a say in the furniture arrangement, insisting it reflect Capone's ego. Everything was designed to reflect wealth, intimidation, and control. Film historians often praise the production design for its accuracy. One of Hollywood's most infamous gangsters was filmed in a place he might have actually walked. History came full circle in Velvet and Marble. Fact 7. The Untouchables is remembered for its operatic, stylized violence. But the studio initially wanted a more family-friendly, PG version. They feared that an R rating would hurt ticket sales. De Palma pushed back, saying that violence was necessary to show corruption's cost. The original script included more blood and a darker tone. Paramount executives tried to cut the alleyway execution of Malone. They also objected to the brutality of the elevator murder scene. De Palma argued that sanitizing the violence would betray the truth of the era. He pointed to real Prohibition-era violence, bombings, ambushes, and assassinations. Eventually, a compromise was reached. Keep the violence, but stylize it visually. That led to De Palma using slow motion, colored lighting, and deep shadows. It became part of his visual signature for the film. The final cut barely passed the MPAA's R rating, narrowly avoiding NC-17. Censors asked for minor audio edits to soften one scene. The violence remained, but De Palma made it poetic, not gratuitous. Critics praised him for balancing impact with artistry. He later said that violence should shock, not entertain. The film's raw power owes a lot to that visual language. It set a new standard for action and crime cinema in the late 80s. Studio pressure almost dulled that edge, but De Palma's vision cut through like a Tommy gun, and audiences didn't look away. Fact 8. Most crime films don't have screenplays written by literary legends, but The Untouchables was penned by David Mamet, a Pulitzer-winning playwright. He won the prize for his play Glengarry Glen Ross. His dialogue is known for its short, punchy rhythms and brutal realism. Mamet initially hesitated to write for Hollywood again, but he loved the moral ambiguity of Ness's journey. He based the script loosely on Ness's real memoir, but changed major details. Mamet created composite characters and added fictionalized events. Malone, for instance, is not a real historical figure, but his death became the film's emotional core. Mamet worked closely with De Palma during pre-production. The studio expected a standard action film, but Mamet delivered a thematic character drama. His courtroom dialogue and street scenes feel more like stagecraft than pulp. He also added quiet moments, like Ness's struggle with his values. Lines like, "He sends one of yours to the morgue," became instant classics. Actors loved working with Mamet's text. It gave them room to breathe. The Writers Guild credited him solely despite rewrites. His script was nominated for a WGA award and later studied in screenwriting courses. Mamet helped elevate The Untouchables from popcorn movie to prestige crime cinema. That blend of grit and poetry came straight from his typewriter. It's what made the film unforgettable. Fact 9. Legendary composer Ennio Morricone wrote the film's score, but his original submission was initially rejected by the studio. Paramount executives thought it was too weird and not heroic enough. Morricone had used unconventional rhythms and eerie instrumentation. De Palma, however, fought to keep it. He believed the score gave the film a haunting European flair. Morricone revised a few sections to satisfy producers, but much of his original intent remained intact. The final version blends traditional orchestral cues with unexpected dissonance. The theme during the baby carriage scene is deliberately unsettling. Morricone believed crime shouldn't sound glamorous. His score earned an Oscar nomination, despite early resistance. It later won a BAFTA for Best Original Music. Many critics now list it among his best non-Western works. De Palma said Morricone's music added a spine to the story. Morricone never visited the set. He composed using only the script and rough cuts. He viewed the story as a tragedy with moments of honor, not just action. That emotional complexity is all over the soundtrack. The final courtroom music was added at the last minute before release. It turned what could have been a generic mob film into something operatic. One of cinema's greatest composers almost got cut, but his music made the bullets sing. Fact 10. Before The Untouchables, most depictions of Prohibition were either comedic or vague. This film gave the era a sharp moral framework. Eliot Ness was shown not just as a lawman, but as a man torn between rules and justice. Capone wasn't just a gangster, but a symbol of corruption's seduction. Viewers began to see prohibition as more than bootleg booze. It became a tale of government, failure, and organized power. The film reignited public interest in the 1920s and 1930s. Libraries reported a spike in Capone biographies being checked out. High school history teachers even used clips in class. Chicago's tourism saw a bump in Untouchables-themed tours. The success of the film helped revive the gangster genre overall. It paved the way for Miller's Crossing, Road to Perdition, and Boardwalk Empire. It also made Kevin Costner a face of justice and integrity in cinema. The real Eliot Ness became a symbol once again, decades after fading from memory. Even politicians cited the film when speaking about anti-corruption reforms. It showed that law enforcement could be cinematic without glorifying violence. Capone's defeat on tax charges suddenly felt exciting. All of that came from one 2-hour movie. De Palma didn't just film a story, he redefined a national memory. Sometimes a movie doesn't just entertain, it rewrites how we remember history.